So welcome everyone tonight to the first one of 2023. And the beginning of this year, we were going to talk about topics that were aligning with identity. And so the first one we're talking about tonight is called the Chameleon Effect. And if you don't know what it refers to, it's typically talking about when you're introduced into a new social group or you feel like you're an outsider and you adjust yourself to fit in, or blend into your surroundings. So I'll give you an example from my life. I was friends with somebody who had gone to Bible college with me, and it was a year after I'd left, and I went back to visit, and he had a whole new set of friends, and so they were all new to me. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay. And I had already been home and I had already been learning to adjust myself depending on who I was with, the people I was working with or whoever. And so I thought I had to do that with this group as well. And so here I was listening to the conversations, figuring out how I could comment or how I could fit in with what I was saying. I listened for 45 minutes before I started speaking. And then I put on the persona that I thought they would accept. And sure enough, like gangbusters, they embraced me, brought me right in, they loved having me there. So then as I'm leaving, my friend pulls me aside and goes, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "What? What do you mean what's wrong with me?" And he was like, "What was that all about? That is so not you. You are not that person. What were you doing? Do you not like my friends? What were you doing?" And I'm like, I was just nervous. So I was just trying to fit in. And he rolled his eyes at me and he was like, "I can't believe you did that. Just be you." And he's like, "Now they don't know you." And it really stuck with me that he knew me well enough to call me out on that. And the people who know us and love us for us will hold on to that person. They don't want us to change. They don't want us to be someone else because they love us for who we are. And those are the people that we want in our lives. And for a long time, I didn't appreciate that. I was going after just whoever would accept me into their group, and I would adjust myself for them instead of seeing the value that my friend saw in me. And so that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, is the tendency that we have sometimes to do that because we feel like the person that we are is either not valuable enough or that they won't be accepted and we don't want to be rejected. And so we do this. We try to blend in to the best of our ability. And sometimes it's just a reflex. Like when I went to a job interview, this was just a few years ago. Once again, like a reflex. I'm like, okay, well, I know who they want me to be. And so instead of just being myself, I was like, well, they want me to say this and say this and say this. So I totally did exactly what I thought they wanted, and I didn't get the job. And then I was surprised they didn't get the job. Well, maybe if I'd been myself, I might have gotten the job because that might have been who they were looking for because that's who they saw on my resume. And so it's kind of like shooting myself in the foot to do that. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is, what is it? Okay, so we talked about blending into your surroundings. Another thing you could correlate it with is wearing a mask. So if you wear a mask to try to hide yourself away, and sometimes we do that to protect ourselves because we don't want to get hurt. And so we'll put on a mask so that whoever they reject isn't exactly who we are. It's the mask that they're rejecting, so it doesn't hurt as much. And then attempting to fit in by being what others want rather than being yourself. And like I said, that's what I was doing with the group, right? I was trying to fit in to what I thought they wanted rather than just being myself. And then if you do this long enough, you can lose yourself. And in my 20s, I did this all the time. Didn't matter what group I was in, didn't matter what we were doing. I would adjust myself to fit what everyone expected. And because of that, I really did lose myself in my 20s. And it took me and God having like a concentrated time for me to refine myself. So it can become dangerous if you let it go that far. So does this effect work? And I just wanted to point out the chameleons on the left-hand side of the page. So some of them are doing a really great job of hiding, and some of them not so much. The one in the top right-hand corner, I think I can see him pretty well. So, and it's the same thing with our masks, right? So it really depends on like how well we have perceived what people are expecting and how well our audience is perceptive of us, because they can tell if we are being fake. A lot of people can tell if you're being fake. A lot of people can tell if you're not being yourself. And if you have taken the time and you've gotten really good at this, sometimes you can hide it, but it really depends on the situation. Do I recommend the chameleon effect? No, I don't. I believe that you should be yourself. And this is a quote from my book, actually. These masks are dangerous. They give you the illusion that you're safe because no one knows who you are and can't hurt you. And on the other side of that same coin is those same people, if they love you for who the mask is, it's not loving you. And you're very aware of it, or at least I was when I was doing it. I didn't feel loved because I felt like they loved the person I was personifying, but they didn't love me because I wasn't being me. And so it was the two-edged sword. So, you know, people who rejected the mask I had forward, it wasn't a big deal, but I also felt very unloved, and it wasn't a very healthy place to be. So what triggers this effect in our lives? The first one I would say is insecurity, feeling unworthy, feeling unworthy of being accepted for who you are, and feeling unworthy of being loved for who you are is another aspect of that. And I think that's one of the huge things when facing this is you feel insecure, you feel unsure of yourself, and it's a trigger that just sometimes it's just automatic, right? And the second trigger is past rejection and the fear of future rejection. So if you've been rejected in the past, then when you enter a new social situation, you're expecting that rejection, especially if you've been yourself and been rejected. It's really hard to put yourself forward again, especially with how much that probably hurt you, and trust that someone out there might actually want to get past that point and not reject you and get to know you and get to love you. And so sometimes just from fear of rejection, we do that. And the third one is loneliness. Isolation can drive us to seek out relationships. And when we're isolated enough, we would seek out relationships with anyone who will have us. And when we do that, we have diminished ourselves to the point where we put on masks so we can fit in, just so that we can have that relationship, whether it's a healthy one or not. We are just so desperate for that community. We're ready to seek it anywhere. And so these are three of the most common triggers. I'm sure there's others out there, but these are the three most common that I've run into myself. And the aftermath of the chameleon effect. So I wanted to talk about why it's so dangerous, because I mentioned that it's dangerous, but I haven't really unraveled why. I kind of talked about this one a bit. If you succeed, people don't know the real you. So any rejection that you get, it doesn't really directly impact you. But once again, love given to the mask or persona is also not received, because you feel like it's being given to the persona you've put forward instead of yourself. Once again, if you're doing it long enough, you can lose yourself to it and lose your identity. And so I'm going to explain a bit about this. So I went through several unhealthy relationships, even with friends and like men in my life in my 20s. And by the time I was like about to hit, like in my early 30s, everything had unraveled, and I looked at my life and I couldn't recognize myself anymore because I had given so much of myself up to make other people happy that I lost myself completely. And I didn't like what I saw. And so it's a slippery slope. That's what I was trying to say. You don't even realize you're doing it until you get to that point where you're just like, oh, I can't even recognize myself anymore. So it's very dangerous. Feeling alone because there's this loss of authentic connection in your life. So what I mean by authentic connection is people who actually know you and love you for you. People who actually trust you, care for you, walk with you. That kind of authentic connection gets lost because once you start putting masks on in one area of your life, it ends up seeping into all areas of your life. Whether you want it to or not, it becomes your reflex in every social situation. For me, it even started being present in my family, like when interactions with my family, interactions with work, interactions with my church friends. It became every single area of my life. And another aftermath of it is feeling unloved. And that's the result of them loving the mask and not you. And then increased anxiety and depression. So when you have masks all the time, it does increase your anxiety of going into situations because you're like thinking about what mask you have to put on, especially a new social situation that you've not experienced before. Because you're like, okay, so who do these people want me to be? And how do I fit in here? And so the anxiety that you feel then about any new social situation skyrockets. And depression, because once again, if you're feeling unloved in a continual pattern and it continues to increase, your depression levels are also going to go up because you feel more isolated, you feel more unloved, even if you are in social groups. And so I really want to share this verse because this is one of the keys of how I regained myself after all of that. God really brought this verse to me and made it real to me. So I just want to read it with you guys. It's Psalm 139, verse 13 to 18. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body. You knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God. They cannot be numbered. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand. And when I wake up, you are still with me. So no matter who I was or who I tried to be, God made me this wonderful person who I was ignoring, this person that was valuable, this person who was amazing, this person who was designed specifically for a purpose. And I had let go of her. And throughout the 6 months after that revelation, God reinstilled my identity into me, using this as a launching point, because he does think we're precious. He does think we are special. He created us all unique for a reason. So now we're going to get into how to deal with this, because a lot of us get into this, and then when we're stuck in it, we don't know how to get out. So we're going to talk about that a bit. The first thing I want to talk about is recognizing that rejection is about the other person and not you. And a lot of people are probably going to be like, oh yeah, right. Then why are they rejecting me? That is not true. Yes, it is true. I'll tell you why. If you reject someone, it is your issue with them. So if I choose to reject someone, it's because I don't like something about them. I don't like the way they make me feel. I don't like the way that they're impacting my life. There is something about them that I cannot have around me. And so I will like withdraw from them. And that is a rejection. So if that's true of me, then when other people meet me and they reject me, it's about their issue with me. It's not about me. Just like it was my issue with them. Even if they were doing everything right, if it's triggering me, I'll still reject them. I'll still withdraw. So the rejection is about the person doing the rejecting, not the person being rejected. And so if you can recognize that, then it takes the sting out of the rejection. And you recognize, okay, well, this isn't about me. This is about that person, whatever issue they're dealing with. This isn't about me. I can still be me. And you know what? Maybe they're not meant to be in my life right now, so I can let them go. Become more confident in your true self. So for me, that took that 6-month process to even find out who I was and to become more confident in her. Has been a journey since then. And so I did that, I think by like 31, 32, I was doing that. So now I'm 47, turning 48. So it's been 15, 16 years that I've been walking out my true identity. And every year I get more confident, but it takes time. This is not something that you can do overnight. This is not something that's one and done. This isn't something like, oh, tomorrow I'm 100% confident in myself. Not really. It takes time. Everything takes time. To become confident in anything takes practice. The more you practice, the better you get at it. The better you get at it, the more confidence you have. So if you see these super confident people, it's not because they came out of the womb super confident. It's because they've practiced that thing so many times, they can walk it out in confidence. And so can you. Everyone can build their confidence. It's by practice. So hold on to that. Don't let that go. Because a lot of people go, oh, that person's so confident, I can never be like that. Yes, you can. It takes practice. So practice it. Don't let that become your reality. Practice. You can do it. 3, change the way you think of yourself by replacing negative thoughts with positive thoughts. This is a key, a very big key. We get so busy thinking all these negative things about ourselves that we can't even recognize the good things sometimes. And a friend of mine recently, we sat down talking, and she was definitely in one of these negative thought cycles and she couldn't get out. And she's still struggling with that. And it's because each of the positive things I was saying about her, she's like, yeah, but. So she wasn't really receiving it. She had an argument for each one, which was another negative thought. And I said, but none of those are biblical. And she's like, yeah, but. And I was like, no buts. Because God created you to be who you are. And he has so many great thoughts about you. Go back to that verse that I shared and embrace his thoughts towards you, because they are so positive. They're so amazing. He loves you. He adores you. He created you. He has so much great things that he has to say about you. So embrace his thoughts, his things that he says about you versus the negative thoughts that swarm. Talk to your friends. They see the good things about you, especially those who are close to you and really know you. They will be able to share those positive things with you. Go up to them and say, hey, what are some positive things about me that I may not see in myself? And I bet you'll hear at least one, because there's a lot of things that we don't know about ourselves. We did this in my small group. It was about 6 years ago. And I was sitting in my small group and I heard something for the first time I'd never heard before. So I'm sitting there and the guy goes, oh, you're super insightful. When you share your thoughts about things, you're so insightful and I love it. He's like, you get me, you challenge me. You're one of the few people who challenges me. And I was like, whoa, because he is like super spiritual, super like educated. And I was like, you're challenged by me? That's amazing to me. And so it blew my mind, right? But had I never asked, I would have never known. And it was just so cool because that was something I never knew about myself. I always thought I was insightful, but no one had ever told me that. So it was so exciting that somebody actually said it. And I was like, I am insightful. Yes. It's not just me that believes that anymore. Someone else does too. And that built my confidence, right? So hearing it also helps build confidence. And then number 4, seek relationships with like-minded people, as they're more likely to embrace you for who you are. When you find people who think about life the same way that you do, who think about God the same way that you do, who think about your job the same way that you do, everything that you experience, who think about family the same way as you do, you can actually build really solid, deep relationships with those people because you see life the same way. And they're going to pick that up in you, and they're going to want to spend time with you. They're going to want to talk to you because they want like-minded people in their life as much as you do. And those are the people that you can really have those deep, meaningful relationships with, rather than these surface relationships that you have with the people that you have put masks on with, because you're not able to go deep with them, because the more layers you unravel, the more they'll start seeing the real you. And once you've put on all of those masks, when you take them off, people are quite shocked when you take them off, because they've expected you to be this person that you've been with them for however many long times you've been with them. If it's been years, then they're expecting that to be you. And if it's been years and you take the mask off, they're like, who are you? What are you on drugs? Like, what's going on? Like, this is not normal for you. Or what's going on? Like, are you having a mental breakdown? Do I need to call someone? Because you're not yourself to them, but you're actually revealing your true self. And so you need to recognize that when you unravel some of this, you may, if you want to keep some of your relationships, you may want to ease some people into who you are and say, look, I made a mistake. I tried to be someone I wasn't to fit in with your group. And I want to be me. So I'm going to do it slowly, but I want you to like know that this is what I'm doing. And don't just bombard them, because they might be a little overwhelmed. So another verse I wanted to share with you, which goes along with the thoughts that I was talking about, is Philippians 4:8, part B. Fix your thoughts on what is true, honorable, and right, and pure, and lovely, and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and praiseworthy, and worthy of praise. And so when I was talking about positive thoughts, these are the things that you can replace those negative thoughts with. So what are things about yourself that are true, yet honorable? What are things about yourself that are right and pure? What are things about yourself that are lovely and admirable? And what things about yourself are excellent and worthy of praise? Those are the things that we should be focused on. So you can actually take each one of these and make a list. And then when those negative thoughts hit you, you can revisit your list and you can go, no, this is who I am. This is who God created me to be. And this is who I'm embracing. I'm not accepting those negative thoughts anymore. And I know I'm valuable. I know that God has built me with a purpose. And this is another quote from my book. Even if you're not rewarded, it's time to unmask and be you. And I shared this because so much of our lives, we're faced with the world, and the world wants us to conform. They want us to fit in. They want us to be like everyone else. You're rewarded for conformity in our world, and they reward you for it. Yet God wants us to be ourselves, and we need to be ourselves. When I was trying to be someone I wasn't, I was miserable. I was not a happy person. I was miserable. Even though I had friends, even though I wasn't alone, I was miserable. I had more joy being alone in myself than I ever did being surrounded with people trying to be someone I wasn't. And so for me, it was just so hard. And so even if you're not rewarded for being yourself, it is time to unmask and be you. Because I'm going to tell you something. The world needs you, the real you. There's only one of you in it. Out of the 8, I don't know if we're at 8 billion yet, but we probably are. Out of the 8 billion people in the world, there's only one you. And the world needs you to be you, not anyone else, just you. So don't be scared to be yourself. Take those masks off and just go for it. And the results, I want to talk about the results of shedding your chameleon skin, as I so put it. Social situations will cost you less anxiety about being rejected. And I'll tell you why. Because if you can just go in being yourself, and if you're rejected, you're rejected. If you're not, you're not. I can guarantee you those social gatherings will be so much more fun, because you'll end up finding at least one person that likes you for exactly who you are. You will. I have experienced it. I have been to so many social gatherings, and at least one person likes me for me. Probably, usually more than one. But there's always at least one person that's like-minded enough to enjoy my presence. So don't get caught up in having to be someone you're not. Someone will connect with you, trust me. Increased confidence in who you are. The more that you step out into social situations, being like just accepting the consequences of who you are and just being you and just being ready to not hide anymore, you will get more and more confident walking into those situations, and you will be more and more ready to meet people and be you and not try to be someone else. And because of that, you're also going to be able to speak quicker, because when you're trying to learn what people are expecting, you have to listen for a long time to figure it out. But when you just walk in and you're just you don't have to think about what you need to say. You just say what you normally would say, and off you go, right? And it does increase your confidence. This takes practice, like I said. And the more that you are yourself, the better you'll be at it. You'll also love yourself more, because you'll see your own value. You'll see that people actually appreciate you for you, and you'll automatically make yourself love you more. And it's amazing to see. I have experienced self-loathing in my life, and believe me, loving yourself more is always a good thing, because a lot of times we are hardest on ourselves, and we love ourselves the least out of everyone in our lives, because we don't see the value that everyone else does. And so it's so cool to see that when you can love yourself, because it opens yourself up to pour out more love to others. So it's not a selfish thing. It's a thing that can open yourself up to even share more love with the people in your life. You're unconcerned about what other people think about you. That's a good one, because sometimes we're so caught up in what other people think about us that we forget about what we think about ourselves, or what God thinks about ourselves. And those should be at the top of the list, especially what God thinks about us. And that's what we need to be concerned about. That's what we need to focus on. And what other people think about us, they'll either tell us or they won't. And if they never tell us what they're thinking about us, we're never going to know it anyway. Most people won't tell you what they're thinking about you, and most people don't think about you what you think they're thinking about you. That sounds confusing, but we have negative self-talk, right? So we talked about that earlier, the negative thoughts. So when you're unconcerned about other people think about you, you're not putting negative thoughts in their mind. Because a lot of times when we get caught on that negative wheel, we think everyone around us is thinking negative thoughts about us. And in reality, they may not even be thinking about us. They may not even know anything that's going on with us. but we have already thought, oh, they think this about me because look at the way they're looking at me. And they may not even be looking at you. They may be staring off into space trying to figure something else out. And you've made this judgment call. That's why it's so important to be unconcerned about what other people think about you, because most of the time, what they think about you is not what you're actually thinking they're thinking about you. So you just need to let that go, because it's a vicious cycle and it's really not as bad as you think it is. And be willing to share your thoughts and your ideas and your feelings, knowing that they're valuable. So, like I said, when you have all that practice, you get more confident, you're entering into those conversations, you're not waiting to hear what you think they want to hear. You are able to then hear the conversation and jump in with your thoughts, your feelings and ideas, and know that they're worth at least hearing. And you're not shy about it anymore. And it's exciting, and it makes you more vibrant because you know you're part of this conversation. And it changes the way you look at social gatherings. It changes the way you view relationships. God loves me for me. No alterations were required. He pursued me, imperfections and all. And it's so true. In that 6 months, he pursued me. He didn't ask me to change. He didn't ask me to be anything other than who he created me to be. All he asked was that I strip off all the masks that were making me someone I wasn't. That was all. He wanted me to be me. And just like this butterfly has imperfections, it's still beautiful. And so are we. We may not be perfect, but God created us exactly who we are. We're not going to be perfect, but we are still beautiful, and we are still unique, and we are still built for a purpose. So we're at our activation for today. And I just want to take a few minutes, and we're gonna focus on honorable thoughts about ourselves. So I'm taking one aspect of Philippians 4:8, and we're gonna focus on honorable thoughts tonight. When we operate with masks of the chameleon effect, the negative thoughts that bombard us attack our self-worth and our identity. So we're going to take the next 5 minutes or so, and we're going to write down honorable things about ourselves. And if you're unsure what I mean by honorable, think about things that somebody would say where you would feel honored, where you would feel genuinely honored to hear. You just be like, wow. For instance, when that person told me I was insightful, I was honored by that. That I challenged them, I was honored by that. So I want you to take the next 5 minutes and just think about things that are honorable about yourself, either things that have been said to you or things that you know of yourself. So the 4 keys to remember that I thought we could focus on tonight is rejection is not about you, it's about the other person. Embracing this will free you from fear of it. And the second one is you were meant to be you. There are no two people exactly alike on the planet. This has been done on purpose, which means there is something the world needs that only the real you can provide. Point number 3 is wearing masks may keep you safe from rejection, but it also ensures you do not receive love either. And number 4, there are people waiting for the real you to show up in their lives. They are like-minded and hoping to find someone just like you to have in their lives. Step out from the mask and reveal yourself. And the 4th one I think is really important, because a lot of times when we get caught up in this chameleon effect, we forget that there are people out there that are looking for someone who is me. And if I don't put myself out there, they're never going to find me. So I have to actually make myself out there, put myself out there as me. Otherwise, they'll never find me. And they've been looking for who knows how long. So let yourself be found, people. And then the quote that I want to share with everyone is never lose your character or surrender who you are just to receive attention. That is a losing battle. And next month, we're going to be talking about the treasure inside. And kind of like we got into a little bit today, it's talking about how God has created a treasure inside each one of us. And we are very valuable, not just because of who God created us to be, but because we carry this treasure in our hearts, who is God, right? And what that entails and what that means. And so we're going to talk about that. And I'm really excited for that one as well. And I'm going to pass it back to Laura as I go to the next screen.
So I don't know how many of you know, but Connie and I have just in the last week or 10 days launched our podcast. It's called NOSA Unleashed. And the purpose behind it is to just have real life conversations about issues that we all face and that we've often avoided, but we want to bring awareness to them. We want to normalize them and talk to them in just real life moments. And how do we handle these situations, and how can we better our lives by improving our mental health and overcoming these obstacles in our lives? And so we recognize that, you know, not everyone's on social media, not everyone watches YouTube, not everyone joins webinars. And so we just wanted to expand our reach. And so we've stepped out into the podcast realm. We'll be posting a couple episodes every month. And so if that's something that you enjoy listening to as you're driving or as you're doing work around your house, we would love for you to just listen in, subscribe, and become part of that avenue of us reaching out, and also tell others about it. Because like I said, some people just don't have the time to come on an hour or two webinar in the evening, like they've got children, but they have, you know, an hour in the car as they're driving, and they can listen and they can ponder these things and they can process them. And so we really just wanted to offer another avenue to just share what God's put on our hearts. And so we're excited for this. We already have 2 episodes, so you can check us out. We're on Spotify, Anchor, and Heart Radio. And the Heart Radio's one you can find straight on our website to make it easy and just listen from there. And so we welcome you to check that out. And if you know, are in a process right now where you're like, you know, I really feel like I need some more support, please don't hesitate to reach out to Connie and I. We would love to journey with you. We'd love to walk with you. We do one-on-one mentoring. If that's where you're at, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and you can contact us on our contact page by email, or you can book straight online for one of our online sessions. So we'd love to hear from you.